Hi guys, it's Josh with Ladybug Organics. Today, I want to talk to you about everything you need to know about ladybugs. In this video, we're going to go over many facts about ladybugs, their life cycle, and most importantly, how to release your ladybugs. So, there's actually more than 5,000 different species of ladybugs. They can come in all sorts of shapes and sizes and colors. They can go from a red, orange, to black and gray, all the way to a yellow. In many cultures, ladybugs are actually known for their good luck, but today I want to educate you on the importance of ladybugs and how good they are as a beneficial bug for your garden. Ladybugs can help protect your plants or garden from pest bugs that can harm your plants by transmitting diseases that can stunt or kill your plants. One single ladybug in its lifetime can eat up to 5,000 pest bugs. Their life cycle begins as a small yellowish golden egg that will take about 3 to 7 days to hatch depending on the temperature. Once they hatch, they'll be in what's called the larva stage for about 21 days. So when they first hatch, not all eggs will hatch. Some of them were not fertilized. That is because the first larvas that do hatch will have a food source by eating some of the empty eggs. If too many hatch at the same time, they can cannibalize on each other. In the 21 days, as the larva stage, this is where the ladybug is the most aggressive. This is where they're going to have the most ferocious appetite because they're trying to eat as much as they can to get as much energy so they can go through the next stage, which is the pupa stage. The pupa stage will last about 1 week, and during that time, you have that small little alligator-looking insect that will turn into your ladybug. When it becomes an adult ladybug, your ladybug can live around 2 years in the wild, and during that time, it can lay multiple generations to help protect your garden in the future. So once you have ladybugs established in your area, most likely year after year, you'll keep seeing more. So here's a closer look at the ladybug life cycle. So what do ladybugs eat? Well, ladybugs eat many soft-scaled insects. This includes your aphids, your whitefly, thrips, mealybugs, spider mites, larvae of many insects, and eggs. The species of ladybug I want to talk to you about today is called Hypodemia convergens. They are one of the most common ladybugs in the world, and these ladybugs happen to be the ladybug that is sold commercially for your gardens. So now that we've gone over some of the basic facts about ladybugs, now you might ask your question, where do I get them? How many do I need? And most importantly, how do I release the ladybugs? Well, you can always order them at ladybugorganics.com. So there are two main factors when trying to figure out how many ladybugs you're going to need for your garden. First is the amount of pest population, and the second is the size of your garden, so the square feet. So for an example, if you have a small little garden, maybe like a 10 by 10, a good amount to start off with would be maybe 500 ladybugs if you don't have much of a high pest population. But if you have a high pest population, you might want to go up to as much as 3,000 ladybugs. When you're dealing with a larger scale farming, such as in acres, you might want to do 1 to 3 gallons of ladybugs per 10 acres, which is quite a bit of ladybugs. 1 gallon is 72,000 ladybugs. In my experience with my customers, The average that I sell to them is typically 1,500. That's because usually they'll have a small garden, and they might have a couple rose bushes or some type of bush, and possibly some stone fruit trees that the aphids are attacking. So one of the things that you need to watch out for is that when you're inspecting your plants for pests, bugs, particularly aphids, you want to look for colonies basically. So if you see a stem and the aphids are all the way up and down that stem, that's going to be one colony. So one adult aphid started that whole entire colony of aphids. So if you see multiple of those, that's usually when you have a high pest population, and that's when you're in trouble, and when you're going to need a lot higher rate of ladybugs. If you see some aphids kind of sporadic here and there in your garden, you won't need quite as much ladybugs, but you have to remember that aphids are asexual, so they don't take very long to reproduce. So they can go from a little bit here and there scattered to having a whole entire colony in less than a couple weeks. So just because there's not a whole lot, you still want to be careful because they can explode pretty fast. Now that you have your ladybugs in your possession, you don't want to release them until the late evening. So if you got them earlier throughout the day, make sure they're in a cool place. Do not have them in the direct sun. They can actually even go into the refrigerator until the late evening when you want to release them. So right before you release the ladybugs, what you would want to do is make sure there's moisture at the plant foliage where you're going to be releasing your ladybugs. So a quick easy thing to do would just be to get the hose and do a light mist on the plant foliage, because the ladybugs are going to want moisture, some water to drink in the very beginning. Another thing that you can add before releasing your ladybugs is Ladybug Organics Beneficial Insect Food Supplement. All you have to do is add water to the powder and it'll make a paste. You add it to the plant foliage, and that will be another food source for the ladybugs to eat to help keep them in that area. So another trick that I've learned throughout the years is that when you get your ladybugs, you don't always have to use them all at once. Actually, I recommend that you only release about maybe a half or a third of your ladybugs every couple days. So every 2 or 3 days, release a half or a third of your ladybugs and repeat the process. When you're doing this, you're making sure that your ladybugs are going to do their job. So if you have too many ladybugs and not enough food source, your ladybugs are going to go away and find that food source. So if you release them a little bit at a time, then they'll have the proper amount of food and they'll stay there. You have to remember that aphids reproduce so quickly that if all the ladybugs come in and eat everything all at once, but leave a couple aphids behind, then those aphids are going to basically reappear in just a couple weeks and you have to do it all over again. So a quick tip is just to release a little bit at a time, wait a couple days, and you actually put your ladybugs in a cool area. The refrigerator actually works just fine, the refrigerator door, and maybe just add something that will hold moisture in your container, such as a moist napkin or cotton ball, sponge, something that they'll have a little bit of moisture just to hold them over, just so that way you can release your ladybugs periodically, and that will help with the aphid population and keeping your ladybugs in the area that you want them to be working on. So again, the main things that you want to do when you're releasing your ladybugs is wait till late evening, preferably 30 minutes before the sun goes down. That is because ladybugs do not like to fly in the dark. So doing that they're going to want to hunker down a little bit more and not want to fly away. Second, you want to make sure that there's moisture in the area. So, do a quick little mist on the plant vegetation, and that will be the first thing that they're going to want water to drink. They're going to be a little bit dehydrated from their trip or from sitting for a little bit. And thirdly, you can always add the beneficial insect food supplement to help keep them there. It also attracts other beneficials like green lacewings that I'll go over later on. And lastly, you want to make sure that you release the ladybugs periodically. So every 2 days or so, you can release a half or a third of your ladybugs. Then you can store them in the refrigerator, and this will help keep the ladybugs in the area that you want them to be working on, and it'll help the future pest population stay down.
For a quick edit, I want to add that when you have a good ratio of ladybugs to pest bugs, the ladybugs will lay more eggs. If you have too many ladybugs, they won't lay any eggs because they know their offspring won't have any food to eat. If you do just enough, they will lay eggs and the ladybugs will go through their life cycle, repeating the process. Having multiple generations of larvae would create the best results.
So here I want to do a quick example of releasing the ladybugs. So I have some plants here in about 10-gallon container pots. So they were just watered yesterday, so there's plenty of moisture in the soil, and there's a little bit of moisture within the plant, so that will be plenty. But if your plants are a little bit drier, they're in the ground, I do recommend spraying them off just a little bit. If your plants do have flowers in the foliage, always just try to spray in the base of the plant, so that way you're not affecting those flowers. So now all we have to do is open up the container, and you can grab this right here. It's called Excelsior, and you can just get it and just sprinkle them around a little bit, and just keep sprinkling them around and go on to the next plant. So another thing that I do recommend is that if you do have a large area that you are spreading the ladybugs, put the ladybugs in the refrigerator for about 10-15 minutes, and they'll go a little bit dormant. That will make it a lot easier for you to spread them, just because they'll drop into place. If it's a little bit warm, you're going to have it to where they're starting to crawl around quite a bit and get all over the place. So having them in the refrigerator will definitely help. Well, that's it for today. If you have any questions about ladybugs, please comment below. And please like and subscribe so you can help me get the information, the knowledge about these awesome beneficial bugs out there. Thank you.